What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing yet another tier list video, and in this one I decided to go with flex supports, but there are a few things that I quickly wanted to go over before we dive straight into things. So for one, this is just for fun, kind of like with all the other tier list videos I've done. It's not supposed to be taken super seriously, so if you disagree with a certain ranking, it's okay, but don't get super angry about it because there is a chance that I would change it if I was going 100% serious on this. The other thing I wanted to make crystal clear is that I did not make the template for this tier list. It was pre-made by somebody else, kind of like with all the others I've done. There was a lot of confusion in my main support video as to why people like Bonnie weren't on the list, and that's the exact reason why, because whoever made that tier list decided not to put him on there, and that's why it's going to be the same thing here. So if there's a certain player that you're asking why the heck is he on here, or why isn't there a certain person on here, that's why. Okay, I think that just about wraps up everything I wanted to say in the intro, so without wasting any more time, let's get started. And first up on our list, we have Violet, and I think in most people's opinions, including mine, he is easily one of the top 3 flex supports in the league, so I don't think I have to explain myself much when saying that he is without a doubt an S tier. His stats are top tier, he does the most damage out of any flex support, he does the most healing, he's a god, whether it's Zen, whether it's Ana, he's really good. Next up we have Kareev, and I've always had a pretty high opinion on him. Some people may not think the same as me, but I would say that he deserves B tier. He's always been pretty consistent, he's not the best, but he's most certainly not the worst either. Okay, so next up we have Kodak, and if I remember correctly, he's now on the Atlanta Academy team as a two-way player, right? I don't think it's that he got demoted, it's more that he wanted to see more playtime because he knew Dogman would be starting over him for the foreseeable future, and I kind of feel bad. Kodak's not a bad player, it's more that Dogman is just really good, so I think I'm going to put Kodak as a top C. Next up, we have Hagopun, and that's another C tier for sure. I like Hago. I think he has potential. He's really shown flashes in the past, both on the Spitfire and on Florida this year, but he's really inconsistent. Like, sometimes he'll pop off, but then there's other moments where you just scratch your head and say, why the heck did he just die to that Diva Bomb, or whatever else it was? Now we have Kareev's flex support counterpart, Izayaki, and I would say most people would argue that he's better than Kareev, but by a slight margin, I actually would take Kareev over Izayaki. Yes, technically Izayaki has the better damage output and a better healing stat, but when you watch the games with the Valiant, I don't know if it's just me, but when Kareev's in the game over Izayaki, I feel like the team's just more effective overall. Now we have Krillin, and this is a definite not enough stage time one for sure. I think that he may have some potential, but we really don't know what this dude is capable of since he's only played, what, like 2 maps at most, I'm pretty sure. In both of those games, the Spitfire had already won the series, so it really didn't matter. He was playing in garbage time, basically. I really won't know what I think of Krillin until we see him get some more significant play time in, like, big games, but I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon unless something happens to Badoshin. Alright, now it's time for the thickest boy on the planet and the greatest flex support to ever touch Overwatch, Raucus. He's easily like an SSS++- tier, am I right? He's just so good, no one can even touch him, and who am I kidding? Raucus is actually horrible. Definitely the worst flex support in the league in my opinion as of right now. He did nothing to impress me last year. He's done more of the same this year. And in fact, I almost just see him as more of a burden, if anything else, for the rest of the Outlaws, especially during Stage 1. His positioning was absolute trash. I think he's gotten a little bit better since then, but still very, very underwhelmed. Who is that next? That's Revenge, right? He hasn't played all that much, maybe like 2 hours at most, I'd say, so I'm going to put him at not enough stage time, and no, I'm not ranking him or Krillin, they're both just here. But yeah, because Bebe's the full-time starter, he doesn't see that much time on stage, and in the little amount of time that he has played, I will admit that I haven't been impressed, but I really don't know what he's capable of in such a short amount of time. I need to see him play more than this, so he's going to remain at not enough stage time for now. Next up is Dogman, and he will be our first A tier on the video. I think that he's done a lot for his Atlanta team. I think he is a little on the over-aggressive side, and he does die a little bit too much for my liking, but he's a fragger. He makes some really big plays. He's also a really good leader. I like Dogman a lot. Now we have Luffy, and in my opinion, this dude is not talked about nearly enough. I don't think he's done anything groundbreaking, especially if you look at the stats, but he's quietly having a pretty decent year for the Dragons. My one issue with him, though, is that he does have some questionable trance usages here and there, but so does Dogman, so that's why I feel like they're pretty much equal. I'll put him slightly below Dogman because Dogman tends to frag out a little bit more. Up next is Kyo, and he's a pretty interesting case. His stats would tell you that he's really average. I mean, like, so average to the point where he's C tier, but they don't tell the whole story if you ask me. He's on a team where he's really not asked to do all that much. They play around Among and Jinmu and a few other people a lot more than they do him. So I'm not going to say that he's horrible. I think he's better than his stats give him credit for. I'll put him below Izayaki at B tier. Now we have the legend himself, Jonek, and do I even need to justify my answer when I say that he is S tier? No, of course not. But I do need to explain myself a little when I say that I think he is worse than Violet at the moment. It's not that Jonek is like horrible and that he's lost his touch. It's more that Violet's just really, really good in this meta. I think the problem with Jonek is that even though his damage output has fallen off a little bit, I don't really mind that. It's more that his trance usages have been a little meh at times. I mean, just look at the healing difference. Violet does a whole lot more healing if you look at the stats. It's a bit more difficult to get away with not healing as much as other Zens would in this kind of meta, because keeping your tanks up and stuff is just really important, especially if it's your Zarya. If your Zarya goes down first in a fight, the likelihood of you winning that battle is just, it goes way down the drain. I mean, seriously, unless you're the Vancouver Titans or you have like 4 or 5 ults online, you'll more than likely lose the fight because you just lost your biggest damage. You can make the argument that any person I have in the S tier range is the best flex support player in the Overwatch League. I think all of them have a pretty good case, and yes, there's one other person I've yet to put on there. It's pretty obvious who it is, so we'll get there in a second. Next up is Ripa or Reaper. I don't know how you say his name exactly, but he is another not enough stage time person. If I remember correctly, he's played like one map at most. It was against the Valiant in garbage time. Maybe there was one other game, but regardless, he hasn't played enough for me to really grasp how good I think he is. And now I can talk about my third and final flex support player on the S tier range, which is of course Twilight. And time again, he's proven he's an absolute monster. Like I mentioned before, you can kind of say any of these guys are number one in the league. I'm sure a lot of people in this video would say he's the best flex support right now, but I actually have him between Violet and Jonek. Kind of like with Violet, I feel that Twilight is just a bit more effective on Zen in the current meta compared to somebody like Jonek. But at the same time, I can't quite put him over someone like Violet just because he is having an MVP caliber year. Sure, these guys are too, but what Violet is doing is just ridiculous. He has surpassed all other flex supports in the league for me right now. His damage, his healing, it's absolutely insane. And I feel like he carries just about every single game, even though he's on a stacked roster. I can completely understand if you want to put Twilight or even Jonek ahead of Violet though, just because they're a bit more valuable in the sense that their Ana is god tier and Violet's isn't quite as good. It still is solid, but it doesn't really compare. So in terms of the ability to play multiple flex supports at a high level, I think that Twilight and Jonek probably have Violet beat by a little margin, but still, in the current meta, Zenyatta is the most important, and I feel that Violet is the best on that hero right now. Okay, so moving on, next up we have Shaz, and I have a pretty high opinion on him. He statistically is one of the better Zenyatta players in the league. I've always liked his Ana as well, so I'm going to put him above Dogbane and Luffy at A tier. Next is, who is that? Is that Hip or Gray? I always confuse the two. No, that's Hip. Hip, I'm sorry, Paris fans, I think he's horrible. I'm going to put him below Hagopun, but just above Raucus. Now we have another beastly Zenyatta player in Bebe, and at first I thought he was kind of meh when the season started, but as the stages have gone on, he's only gotten stronger and stronger and stronger, and his stats back it up too, so I'm going to put him A tier, just below Shaz. Up next is Jaehong, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I feel that he's done really well this year. His stats back it up for one, but two, I don't think he's looked washed up like he did during the second half of last year. He's really hanging on still. He still looks good on Zen and on Ana, so I'm going to put him slightly below Shaz, but above Bebe. Up next is the Frenchman himself, Unko, and I think he's one of the most consistent players in the league. He won't frag out all the time like somebody such as Violet, Twilight, or Jonek, but he's still really good nonetheless. He has his moments. He's really smart. I enjoy watching Unko play. I think he's going to be right below Bebe, but above Dogman and Luffy. Now I get to talk about one of my favorite flex support players, Neko, and kind of like with Unko, he's always been very consistent. I love his Zenyatta to death, but also his Ana kind of slips under the radar, I feel. It's really, really strong, surprisingly, because I've always known him as a good Zen player, but his Ana this year has been out of this world. So because of that, I'm going to put him above Unko, but just below Bebe. Now we have Badoshin, and if you thought the guys I talked about already in A tier were consistent, Badoshin takes it to a whole new level. He's not going to kill you every single game, kind of like with Unko, but he has his moments, and he very rarely has a bad game, I'd say. And one other reason I love Badoshin is because he's not just good at Zen or Ana, he's proven that he really can live up to the name of a flex support by going on to Roadhog and other DPS. He's just absolutely nuts at the game. Man, these nasty flex support players just keep lining up one after another. Now we have Shu, and this may sound a little ridiculous, but I think he's the closest thing that we have to an S tier that isn't actually S. I think he's top A, definitely a top 5 Zenyatta / Ana in the league for me right now. He's been popping off the whole year, even though the charge have been pretty meh. Doesn't matter at all. Regardless of how bad his team is, he's going to continue to pop off on a game-to-game basis. Hey look, we're finally taking a break from A tiers as now we talk about Gray, and I think that he's a little bit better than Hip. Not by all that much. You know, I'll put him above Hago as well. He's shown flashes at times, but he's nothing special, especially if you consider how much he dies. Welp, The break from the really good players was good while it lasted because now we're talking about Boombox, and in my opinion, he has been one of the most consistent players on his team this year, and he has proven how valuable he is to the Fusion with how strong his Zen has looked in the current meta, so I'll put him right between Neko and Unko. Kind of like with these three up here, I'd say that Neko, Boombox, and Unko are pretty interchangeable in terms of skill level. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to the final two, so first up is Aim God, and he's been pretty good this year. Would I say he's better than Neko in that he's making a good replacement? Well, he's definitely doing the replacement part right, but is he better? I don't know. You know what? I will put him above him. I think Aim God has been really strong. Should I put him above Bebe? He's had good performances at times, but I feel like he's fallen off a little bit since the Uprising have played worse. So, you know what? I'll just put him there for now. I think that's a good spot for him. All right, Sleepy, you're the last one on the list, and he's kind of tough. Yes, I apologize for him not having a Washington Justice jersey, but anyway, he's good, and you know, if this was last year, I'd probably put him A, but I'm going to put him high B. I love Sleepy to death. He's one of my favorite players in the Overwatch League, but he hasn't done all that much to impress me yet, whether he was on the Shock or on the Justice. Hopefully that changes in the future, but for now, he will be top B. Now the question becomes, do I want to make any last-second changes? And you know what? I think I do for the first time in one of these videos. I actually don't like where I have Aim God. It's been bothering me since I put him there. I actually want to put him above Bebe. He's a bit more consistent than him. After taking a few more moments to think about it, I realized that there's actually some placements on here that make me really unhappy that I'd like to change. So the first things that I wanted to do was move Dogman and Luffy below Sleepy into B tier, because I came to the realization that I think Sleepy's better than both of them, and it doesn't make sense to have Sleepy in B tier than have Dogman and Luffy in A tier, right? That's just dumb. But the other thing I wanted to do is move Bebe a little far behind, and by that I mean all the way to the end of A. Like, statistically, he's a really good Zen, but the issue is that he's not as consistent as guys such as Neko, Boombox, or Unko, you know? Alright, after making a bunch of changes, I feel like I am now content with my tier list overall, so let's do a quick recap before doing my outro. Starting off with S tiers, there's Violet, Twilight, and Jonek. In A tiers, we have Shu, Badoshin, Shaz, Jaehong, Aim God, Neko, Boombox, Unko, and Bebe. In the B tier range, there's Sleepy, Dogman, Luffy, Kariv, Izayaki, and Kyo. In C, we have Kodak, Gray, Hagopun, Hip, and Raucous. Then, of course, in the not enough stage time section, there is Krillin, Revenge, and Rippa. With that being said, that is going to wrap up today's tier list video. If you did enjoy it, then be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you're new so you don't miss out on when the next tier list video drops. As always, feel free to let me know what you think of this tier list down in the comment section, and make sure to tell me which one you want to see up next. Should I do Brigitte players, Zaryas, etc., etc.? Make sure to let me know if you have any sort of ideas, because I may do it in a future video. If you're interested in trying out this tier list maker for yourself, I will leave a link to it in the description, and while you're at it, make sure to check out my Discord server and my Twitter, because links to that will be provided as well. Okay guys, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.